For centuries, popes weren't just spiritual leaders, they were patrons of the arts.
They funded artists by commissioning works, providing support, and giving them the freedom to create on a grand scale.
Over time, those commissioned works, along with ancient Roman and Greek pieces the popes preserved, grew into an enormous collection.
Rather than keeping it private, the Vatican organized these works into museums, so art, history, and faith could be shared with the world, beginning in 1771.
That's why the Vatican Museums aren't just galleries. They're the result of centuries of artistic patronage and preservation. The first thing we saw upon entry into the Vatican Museums was the Chiaramonte Gallery.
This long, stunning hallway is known for its collection of ancient Roman sculptures.
On both sides, you'll see marble statues and Roman portrait busts of emperors, philosophers, gods, and everyday Romans.
Many of them are Roman copies of even older Greek originals.
These busts focus on real people from the head and shoulders, with wrinkles and strong expressions meant to show wisdom, power, and status.
Most were created by ancient Roman artists and later collected and preserved by the Vatican over centuries.
There are over 1,000 sculptures in this gallery alone, and if you had the time, you could easily spend hours studying the faces and the details.
But instead, we're being hurried along by our tour guide.
It's especially busy today with so many visitors here for the Jubilee.
We are now making our way to Museo Pio Clementinino. This part of the Vatican Museums is all about ancient Greek and Roman sculpture. It's where the Vatican showcases its most celebrated classical masterpieces.
And this collection actually goes back to the late 1700s.
Together, Pope Clement XIV and Pope Pius VI set the foundation for the Vatican Museums as a world-class home for ancient art.
What's fascinating is how much influence these sculptures had on later artists.
These sculptures were studied by Renaissance artists with a particular strong influence on Michelangelo and admired by masters like Leonardo da Vinci.
We are now entering into Cortile Ottagonal, or the octagonal courtyard, which is the central courtyard of Museo Pio Clemente. This is one of the Vatican's most famous classical sculptures.
It represents Apollo, the Greek god of light, music, and harmony.
For centuries, figures like Apollo were seen as the ideal human form, calm, balanced, and perfectly proportioned.
Those same classical ideals later influenced how Jesus was depicted in Western art, often shown as serene, balanced, and peaceful. Michelangelo studied this work closely, and it went on to influence how drama and human anatomy were portrayed in Western art.
After the Cortile Ottagonal, we continue into the Room of the Muses, which is still part of the Museo Pio Clemente.
The Muses were mythological figures believed to inspire art, music, poetry, and learning.
Rather than displaying all 9 goddesses, this hall brings their ideas to life through its design.
The sculptures surrounding the room celebrate ideal beauty and human expression, while the painted dome above draws your eyes upward, reinforcing the idea of inspiration.
Together, the art, architecture, and mythology turn this room into a place meant to inspire, not just display objects. This may look unfinished, but it's actually one of the most influential sculptures here.
It's known as the Belvedere torso, an ancient fragment admired for its powerful anatomy.
Even without the head or limbs, you can still feel the strength and movement in the body.
Michelangelo studied this piece closely and believed it was perfect just as it is. The ceiling you're looking at dates back to the late 1700s and has been carefully restored over time to preserve its detail and color.
This is the Sala Rotonda, inspired by the Pantheon.
With its domed ceiling and ancient mosaic floors, it was designed to impress and overwhelm.
At the center is a massive ancient Roman basin, carved from porphyry, one of the rarest and most valuable stones in the Roman Empire.
The floor beneath us is an original Roman mosaic from the 2nd century AD, brought here from the ancient baths of Otricoli and carefully reinstalled in the 1700s.
The baths of Otricoli were abandoned centuries ago, so to save this remarkable floor from decay, it was moved to the Vatican Museums for preservation. After the Sala Rotonda, we entered the Sala Across Greca, which means the Hall of the Greek Cross.
The name comes from the cross-shaped layout of the room, designed around these massive sarcophagi, stone coffins.
These particular sarcophagi are carved from porphyry, a rare purple stone reserved for emperors.
They once held members of the Emperor Constantine's family, linking imperial Rome with early Christianity. The marble floor is made from ancient Roman materials, carefully arranged to reflect balance, order, and permanence.
Together, the architecture, sculpture, and floor turn this room into a powerful statement about legacy. From the Sala Agros Greca, we leave the Museo Pio Clementino and enter the next galleries of the Vatican Museums. We are now entering the Galleria dei Candelabri.
The name translates to the Gallery of the Candelabra, named for the large marble candelabra that divides the space.
This long gallery is filled with ancient Roman statues, busts, and decorative pieces. It feels less like a single room and more like a processional walkway.
These broken and partial pieces once belonged to buildings, gardens, and sacred spaces, before being preserved and brought together by the Vatican to be shared in this museum. What really stands out here is the ceiling, richly decorated with frescoes that contrast with the marble sculptures below.
From here, we move into the Gallery of Tapestries.
This long gallery is lined with richly woven tapestries, some of them centuries old.
They were made in the early 1500s during the Renaissance.
The designs were created by Raphael and then woven by master Flemish weavers in Brussels, the finest tapestry makers of the time.
Unlike the marble sculptures we've seen, these tell their stories through fabric, color, and thread.
They were commissioned by Pope Leo X to depict biblical stories and to showcase the power, faith, and artistic ambition of the Vatican.
It's a complete shift in texture and mood.
And a reminder that storytelling here wasn't limited to stone and paint.
For a long time, especially in the mid-1900s, tapestries like these were a popular way to bring the art of storytelling into everyday homes.
These actually remind me of when my parents had tapestries hanging in their house, each one showing a different scene.
From the Gallery of Tapestries, we move into the Gallery of Maps, one of the most visually striking spaces in the Vatican Museums.
This long gallery is lined with 40 large hand-painted maps showing the regions of Italy as they were understood in the late 1500s.
They were commissioned by Pope Gregory XIII during the Renaissance.
And the maps were created under the direction of Ignazio Danti, who combined art, science, and geography.
Together, these 40 maps form a complete visual survey of Italy, from coastlines and mountain ranges to cities, rivers, and regions.
At the time, they weren't just decorative. They were practical tools helping the Vatican understand and govern its territories.
What's remarkable is how accurate many of them still are.
These maps have been displayed here since the late 1500s, making this one of the Vatican Museum's original showpiece galleries.
And it's not just the walls.
The richly frescoed ceiling mirrors the regions below, turning this space into a fully immersive Renaissance atlas.
Walking through here feels like stepping into a map of Italy, painted in real time.
Where art, science, and history all come together.
After walking through the gallery of maps, we move into the Sala Sobieski.
This room is very different from what we've just seen. Instead of maps or sculptures, it's focused on a single dramatic historical moment.
The room is named after King John III Sobieski, and it centers on the Battle of Vienna in 1683.
The battle marked a turning point in European history when Sobieski led forces that stopped the Ottoman advance into Europe.
After Sala Sobieski, we moved into the Sala del Immacolata Concezione.
This room is dedicated to the doctrine of the Immaculate Conception, the belief that Mary conceived without original sin.
That belief was officially proclaimed in 1854.
It was declared by Pope Pius IX, and this room was created to commemorate that moment.
So this space wasn't designed just as an art gallery.
The art here was created to teach, reinforce, and celebrate the doctrine of the Immaculate Conception.
Even the books here reflect centuries of theological study behind this belief. After the Room of Immaculate Conception, we leave the museum galleries and enter the Raphael rooms.
These rooms were once part of the Pope's private apartments and are covered entirely in frescoes.
Our first stop here is the Hall of Constantine.
This hall was created in honor of Emperor Constantine, the ruler who made Christianity legal in the Roman Empire in 313 AD.
The frescoes here trace Constantine's journey, from vision and victory to the legalization of Christianity.
One wall shows his famous vision before battle, where he is said to have seen a Christian symbol promising victory.
That vision leads directly to the Battle of Milvian Bridge.
In that battle, Constantine faces his rival, Maxentius, who controlled Rome at the time.
Constantine defeats Maxentius, securing control of Rome.
After the victory, Constantine believed his success was guided by divine Christian support.
We also see his baptism, symbolizing his acceptance of Christianity.
And the final scenes show him granting protection and authority to the church.
Together, these paintings show how Christianity moved from persecution
to being legalized, protected, and supported by the Roman Empire.
From the Hall of Constantine, we move into the Stanza di Eliodoro, another of the Raphael rooms. One of the most dramatic scenes shows the expulsion of Heliodorus from the temple.
He's driven out by a divine figure after trying to steal sacred treasure.
Another wall shows St. Peter being freed from prison.
An angel leads him out, symbolizing hope, deliverance, and God's intervention in moments of danger.
From the Stanza di Eliodoro, we move into the Stanza del Signatura, one of the most famous rooms in the Vatican.
This room originally served as a papal library and courtroom, where important church documents were signed, which is where the name Signatura comes from.
Unlike the dramatic rescues we just saw, this room focuses on ideas.
It brings together four major areas of human thought: theology, philosophy, poetry, and law.
One wall is dedicated to theology, with the Disputation of the Holy Sacrament.
Another celebrates philosophy through the School of Athens, showing ancient thinkers like Plato and Aristotle.
This was Raphael's first room in the Vatican,
and many consider it his intellectual masterpiece.
We've now moved into the last of the Raphael rooms, called the Stanza del Incendio di Borgo.
This room contains 4 major scenes: the fire in the Borgo, the Battle of Ostia, the Oath of Leo III, and the coronation of Charlemagne. A massive fire broke out in the Borgo district near St. Peter's in 847 AD.
As the flames spread, people panicked and chaos took over the streets.
Historical accounts describe Pope Leo IV appearing on a balcony overlooking the fire.
He raised his hand and made the sign of the cross.
That act of faith is said to have stopped the fire.
The fresco captures the moment: fear below and calm authority above.
We've just finished the Raphael rooms, and now we're stepping into a very different chapter of Vatican history.
These are the Borgia apartments, once the private residence of Pope Alexander VI.
Before becoming Pope, Rodrigo Borgia had children, despite church expectations of celibacy. He never married, but he openly acknowledged several children.
Some of his family members and attendants would have lived here with him while he was Pope from 1492 to 1503.
These rooms functioned as papal living quarters, reception rooms, private chambers, meeting spaces, and areas where he conducted official business.
The decoration was commissioned from the Renaissance artist Pinturicchio. The walls are filled with prophets, sibyls, saints, and symbolic imagery, all reinforcing papal authority.
After Alexander VI died, the next pope, Pope Julius II, chose not to live here. The Borgia name had become controversial.
So the apartments were abandoned as a papal residence and eventually fell out of use.
It wasn't until the late 1800s, under Pope Leo XIII, that these rooms were restored and incorporated into the Vatican Museums.
Today, they exhibit religious art, welcoming visitors from around the world. From here, we follow the signs toward the Sistine Chapel.
After walking through centuries of art and history, knowing we were about to enter one of the most famous rooms in the world was truly exciting.
Unfortunately, we're unable to share any video footage or photos from inside the Sistine Chapel, as photography and videography are not permitted.
Instead, we're sharing the journey with you through storytelling, along with images provided prior to the tour and visuals created for storytelling purposes.
The Sistine Chapel is part of the Vatican Museums, and what a phenomenal way to end the tour.
It isn't just another gallery, it's one of the most important artistic and spiritual spaces in the world.
It was built between 1473 and 1481 under Pope Sixtus IV, which is where the name Sistine comes from.
And more than 500 years later, it's still used for one of the most significant events in the Catholic Church. Today, it's where the College of Cardinals gathers in conclave to elect a new pope.
When you hear about the white smoke rising from the Vatican, it begins right here inside the Sistine Chapel.
When we walked in, our guide told us to look up first.
Because covering the ceiling are scenes painted by Michelangelo between 1508 and 1512.
The central panels tell stories from the book of Genesis, beginning with the creation of the world.
You see God separating light from darkness, the creation of the sun and moon, the creation of Adam and Eve, and the story of Noah.
And right at the center is one of the most famous images in art history, the creation of Adam, that nearly touching moment between God and humanity.
Years later, Michelangelo returned to paint the massive fresco behind the altar, The Last Judgment.
That wall shows Christ judging humanity at the end of time, saints rising to heaven, others descending, movement and emotion everywhere. Visiting the Sistine Chapel is a dream come true.
And an experience that will stay with us for the rest of our lives.
Thank you for joining us on this tour.
Remember to subscribe, like, and share our video.
Until the next one.
Cheers.